Chapter 55. I used to love you too. Eunuch, I'm so sad right now. There was a pain in Xiao Ru's voice. Gu Hai's face changed. His brows were deeply locked. All around, there was no one charging anymore, and even if they did, that was completely looking for death. The great brightness king god was clearly no longer fighting Gu Hai. Besides, another mercy life bodhisattva had appeared. Those who didn't know each other knew the identities of the three, even after being told by others. Whoever trespassed at this time, no matter who they angered, was looking for death. Mercy life bodhisattva, what did you mean just now? You can save Xiao Ru, Gu Hai asked anxiously. Mercy life bodhisattva flew high into the sky. The great brightness king god stared at the mercy life bodhisattva. Mercy life, you've come too. Immeasurable life Buddha. The great brightness king god hasn't seen you for many years. How are you? Mercy life bodhisattva folded his hands and said, HMPH, make it clear to him, 600 longevity peaches is too much of a tonic. If we continue to consume any more, Nu Wuhu's earth soul will also be traumatized, the great brightness king god said in a cold voice. Bodhisattva mercy life, please take a look at Xiao Ru. Can you help her rebuild her vitality? Gu Hai called out anxiously. The bodhisattva of merciful life looked at Xiao Ru and frowned slightly. The three souls have not been dispersed. It's not difficult to remake the vitality, as long as there is a powerful spirit medicine. This 100 longevity peach of yours, although it's more precious than most of the spirit medicines, but it's only a longevity medicine, not a spirit medicine, and the strength of the medicine is too strong. Instead of being able to help Xiao Ru reshape her vitality, it will be a burden to her as well. Ancient helmsman, Xiao Ru's earth soul, which belongs to Empress Nu Wu, will have to return to Empress Nu Wu sooner or later. Why don't we take this opportunity to let her return? Master Rensheng advised. Gu Hai stared at Bodhisattva Rensheng in death, his fists clenched in death. It took several deep breaths to suppress the anger in his heart. Although Mercy Life Bodhisattva explained a bunch of things, could Gu Hai's wisdom not understand? Mercy Life Bodhisattva had the ability to help Xiao Ru, but he wasn't helping. Earth Soul, reincarnation of the Earth Soul. When Xiao Ru's Earth Soul returns to Nu Wuhu, is Xiao Ru still the same Xiao Ru? What about her heavenly soul and human soul? Gu Hai asked, suppressing the anger in his voice. Xiao Ru's heavenly soul and human soul will be integrated into Empress Nu Wu's heavenly soul and human soul. However, Empress Nu Wu's will be the main one, but the Earth Soul will remain unchanged, not far away, the great brightness king god explained. Bodhisattva Rensheng did with his hands folded. The Earth Soul remains unchanged. Xiao Ru still remembers everything from before. Gu Hai looked at Mercy Life Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva of Merciful Life nodded. I still remember. Xiao Ru's memories are the memories of Empress Nu Wu. Would Empress Nu Wu forget? It's just that in the future, the will of Nu Wu who will be the main focus again. Everything about Xiao Ru is just a memory. Gu Hai hugged Xiao Ru and looked at the crowd. A wave of reluctance flashed in his eyes. Yun Gong, I'm so hard to bear, Xiao Ru said in pain. Gu Hai disliked this feeling. The people around him, he was powerless to save them. Obviously he could save them, but he couldn't. It was like his wife back then, Chen Xiaonair. Again, hurry up. Empress Wu's Earth Soul is about to be injured, the great brightness king god urged. Gu Hai ignored the great brightness king god, and instead looked at the frail Xiao Ru. Xiao Ru, did you hear what they said? Are you willing to become another person? Retaining the memories, but the will has changed. What's the point of asking her about this? The great brightness king god urged. If you are willing, I will send you there. If you're not willing, I'll help you free yourself. Gu Hai gritted his teeth and said, How dare you? The great brightness king god roared abruptly. Boom! Countless peacock plumes steeply emerged from the surroundings. As if Gu Hai would dare to kill Xiao Ru, the great brightness king god would immediately charge up. Roar! Gu Hai sat down and fiercely swung his square, heavenly painted halberd, pointing it at the great brightness king god with warlike intent. Gu Hai glanced at the great Ming king god with an icy gaze. Even though he knew full well that the great Ming king god was powerful, he was pleasantly unafraid. Xiaoru trembled. Live in a different way. That way I can still look at Enkong again. Think about Enkong again. I'm willing. I'm willing to become another person. Hu. The great brightness king god suddenly let out a long breath. Gu Hai hugged Xiaoru. A wave of complexity flashed in his eyes as he twisted his head to look at the Bodhisattva of mercy, and said in a cold voice, "Bodhisattva of mercy, I hope you didn't lie to me." Immeasurable life Buddha, what the poor monk said. Every word is true. Mercy life Bodhisattva folded his hands and said, "Lead the way." Gu Hai roared at the great brightness king god. HMPH. The great brightness king god let out a cold snort. Turning his head, he flew towards the distant mountain peak. Rumble. Thousands of troops flew towards the distant mountain peak under Gu Hai's manipulation. The Bodhisattva of merciful life stood high in the sky, looking at Gu Hai's back, and sighed slightly. "Gu Hai, I'm doing this for your own good. If Queen Wo can't be resurrected today, you'll be faced with more than just one great brightness king god. And when that happens, there will be no place in the sky or on the ground for you to hide from those who are hunting you down." 1,000 armies left the 100 longevity peach tree, and at the 100 longevity peach tree, there was still the Bodhisattva of merciful life standing. The eyes of the countless cultivators in the surroundings also suddenly came alive. Maybe we can grab it now. Many people were in the midst of anticipation in their hearts. However, most of them didn't dare to barge up there, and after a while, someone finally got impatient. Who? That person rushed towards the 100 longevity peach tree with an eager face. Not good. Many cultivators immediately changed their faces and were about to angrily rebuke. Bear Jin. In the void, a peacock plume slashed through. Boom. The man, along with the sitting cloud beast, was split in half vertically. It fell down. Hiss. There were sounds of cold air being sucked in all around. The great brightness king god, who flew downwards, twisted his head, coldly looked at the air, and softly said, "I'm still here. Whoever dares to move, I want them dead." The voice was very soft, yet it strangely traveled through everyone's ears, and nearly everyone felt a chill rise from the soles of their feet to the top of their heads. At this moment, yet no one dared to intrude a step further. Even the 9 dukes, at this moment, their faces were ugly to the extreme. Gu Hai and his party quickly arrived on top of the mountain peak, and a large number of sun-black-robed people knelt down on one knee. Welcome the return of Queen Nuwa. The crowd of black-robed men respectfully worshipped. Open the coffin. The great brightness king god droned. Yes, rumble. The crowd of sun-black-robed men slowly opened the huge 10-foot-long coffin. Inside the coffin, a large amount of white mist in general was currently filling the coffin, and once the lid was opened, rolling aura poured out. That wisp of white mist was condensing a huge amount of spiritual chi in general. Now the rolling white mist filled the interior nearly to the brim. Only at one end of the coffin could one see a head attached to a snake's body, a stunningly beautiful woman's head. The woman's appearance was somewhat similar to Xiaoru's, but was countless times more mature than Xiaoru. The woman's eyes were slightly open, as if she was extremely weak, looking at Xiaoru. Xiaoru also looked at the woman in an extremely weak manner. Buzz. Xiaoru's body trembled slightly. "Xiaoru, how are you?" Gu Hai worriedly said. "Eunuch, I feel a familiar sensation. In that coffin. It seems like it's really me," Xiaoru cried. "HMM," Gu Hai nodded. Inside the coffin, the woman spoke softly. "Enter my mouth and become one." As she spoke, the woman's head changed abruptly, transforming into a vast snake head, opening her mouth wide, as if waiting to eat Xiaoru up. Xiaoru looked at that mouth and cried once again. Enku. Xiaoru looked at Guhai with a deep sadness in her eyes. Xiaoru, I'm sorry. This time, I don't have the ability to save you anymore. Guhai was also quite sad. Yun-gong, put me into her mouth, Xiaoru cried. During this time, Xiaoru kept staring at Guhai. Xiaoru understood that this might be the last time she would look at Guhai like this. The last time. Guhai nodded. Slowly, Xiaoru placed Xiaoru in the big snake's mouth. The big snake's mouth slowly closed. In the mouth that slowly turned dark, Xiaoru's tears suddenly gushed out furiously. Yun-gong. Xiaoru, say it. Guhai looked at Xiaoru. If one day I turn bad, you must remind me that I was once good too, Xiaoru shouted. Snap! The snake's mouth closed completely. Xiaoru was completely engulfed in darkness, and at the moment of engulfment said another, I also once loved you. Unfortunately, the snake's mouth had already closed, and no one could hear Xiaoru's last sentence, that soft voice that perhaps only she could hear. This last sentence, Xiaoru had wanted to say for a long time. When Guhai saved Xiaoru from Pang Qianlong for the first time, Xiaoru's heart had been completely tethered to Guhai. The despair of that moment, the sadness of that moment, no one could hear it. Everyone watched in cold blood as they died. Only Enkong descended from the sky, like a great hero, saved herself. No one knows how touched Xiaoru was at that moment. It was the feeling of resurrecting the dead heart. At that moment, Yun-gong gave himself a new life and saved his heart from dying. Xiaoru so wanted to say the words of her heart to Yun-gong, but she was worried that Yun-gong would send herself away. This sentence can only be silently buried in the heart. Perhaps, do not need to Yun-gong to do anything, as long as every day at Yun-gong's side, can look at Yun-gong from time to time, on the line. If Yun-gong can smile at me from time to time, then perhaps this life will be satisfied. Xiaoru had already felt that she was the happiest, because everything in front of her was already enough. She could just follow Yun-gong. That sentence, let it be buried in the bottom of the heart. I just need to know it myself. I don't need Ngong to say anything. I just need to be able to look at Ngong once in a while. But why doesn't God give you even this little wish? Why doesn't he give it to himself? Yun-gong, I like you so much. I'm going to become another person soon. I won't like you anymore. Xiaoru cried her heart out in the snake's mouth, hating her cowardice, hating her weakness. To death, she couldn't say those words. Buzz. Xiaoru's body, in the snake's mouth, slowly melted away, with tears, with sadness. Xiaoru felt herself getting weaker and weaker. Getting weaker and weaker, gradually, becoming senseless. Vaguely, Xiaoru felt that she had a dream. In the dream, Xiaoru transformed into a human form. Frankly and Guhai walked together, the two of them hand in hand, walking in the middle of a medicinal field. They spoke happy words to each other and told each other moving stories. If one day I turn bad, Enku, you must remember that I was once good too. I also loved you once.